Yo, check. What's going on? This is Gant, ELGANT. Checking out Breaking Records Radio. Let's go.
Hey yo, it's your boy Monster Man Rocco.
It's your boy Swagger Rock.
This is Snack the Ripper.
Hey, you have to go, you don't know.
This is Master Ace. You are now rocking with the best. Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records.
Breaking Records Radio. Let's go.
Breaking Records Radio.
Press 5-9, check Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man. Radio is like the place to be. I don't know. Fuck strange music, dude.
Check it out, Breaking Records Radio and the place to be. You know what it is. It's your host, Maloney, and I got a very special guest on the phone with me right now. This dude's been doing his thing in the underground for years and years and years. Super lyrical dude. You might recognize him, from back in the day, MTV Battles. You might recognize him from Jamo Gang. You might recognize him from a lot of different places. But we got Gant on the phone with us, man. How you doing?
Hey, man, what's going on? I'm doing good, man. Good to be on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, man. I can't complain, yo.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. And, first off, I just want to thank you for your time tonight. You know what I'm saying?
Man, appreciate you having me.
Yo, no doubt, man, no doubt. I actually opened up for you guys when you were in Toronto here last on the Jamo Gang tour.
Yeah.
And Maestro was there and shit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I remember that well.
Yeah, I was one of the first acts up there, but yeah, man. So you guys put on a real dope set. That was actually the first time myself getting familiar with you, and then when I went back, I copped the Jamo Gang vinyl. I love the vinyl, by the way. Super dope album.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Great content, and then when I went down the wormhole and checked the history, I'm like, damn, like this guy's been around for a minute.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm that, like Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump, man. Like you'll see pictures throughout hip hop history, and you're like, El Gant was there. Wow, that's crazy.
You know what? Actually, too, before we do get rolling, the fact that you said that, that's one of the things I love about doing interviews is just learning and uncovering just cool pieces of history from the people who were there and stuff. So, just the fact that you said that, actually, I'm kind of curious. What is like, what's the way to word it? Like, what is the coolest hip hop memory you have of like something, that might not have necessarily involved you, but something that you were there to witness, like firsthand?
Man, you know what? It's for me, it wasn't the things that I was part of as being El Gant and performing. It was the stuff that I was part of as a fan.
Yeah.
I think it's that stuff that inspired me the most. And I remember two very discernible moments that made me want to really, really rap and just being such a fan and blown away by. And one of them was the first concert I ever saw as a kid. I saw Cypress Hill perform in my hometown. I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is like 2 hours north of New York City. A little more out there. And you don't get that many people coming to your town, and those dudes showed up, and Rage Against the Machine was actually the opener.
What?
And yes, it's before they really, and I had to be in like 7th grade or something like that. I was like 12 years old, but I just remember going. One of my first albums was Cypress Hill's album, so I was a huge fan, and then just being in that crowd, the first time seeing a live show, and my first live show was that, and then not knowing that. A year later, Rage Against the Machine would be, the powerhouse that they've now been for, almost 30 years. That was a big moment for me.
Yo, that's sorry, not to cut you off. I just wanted to say, that's super cool, man. So, I'm just curious, too, what kind of, capacity venue was that? Have you seen them before they blew? Now, now they announced their comeback tour and they're selling out stadiums. So, you got to see them before they turned that page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like our concert venue. I'm going to say it held maybe 3,000. It wasn't tiny, but it wasn't very large.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those mid-level venues, and it was the same venue that they'd have a boxing match or a hockey game. It was just that one venue that you just did everything in.
Yep.
And it's funny, and I'll circle this 360 degrees. About 3 or 4 years ago, because I do come from a smaller city. one of the only dudes, from my town that kind of, I don't want to use the term made it, but, made some waves in that genre of music. I was asked to come back and perform with, like, God, who was I with? It was, like, Method Man and Redman and Capone and Noriega and Lord Tariq and Peter Gunn. And I was asked to rock in my hometown, and then I was on stage at that Civic Center, just rocking for, like, all the kids that are now grown adults. That were, like, it was just crazy full circle. I'm like, man, this is cool. Like, this all came around.
Wow, man, that's so cool, man. Like, just to have one of those memories, and then to actually get to the point where you're rocking that stage. You know what I mean? Like, that's super dope.
Yeah, and it's funny because, and again, to go 360, because the other moment that really made me want to move forward was, I remember my first show ever was opening up for Heltah Skeltah and Smif N Wessun at a skate park, and that held like 200 people, 300 people, or something like that. And I remember, like, the promoter being like, "Yo, if you guys are dope, you can go, you can go backstage and meet them." And I don't know what happened that night. I have no idea, but I do know that it's crazy now that, I saw Steele last week. It's just, that's my man, and I have a project with Tek that never even came. This is family now, so it's just a crazy man, how far you just kind of realize how far you've come.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, and that's so cool. And you know what, like, yeah, I feel you to certain degrees. Like, I haven't, I'm nowhere near where, I'm going and where I plan on getting. But it's just like, since I started doing media and some of the people I've interviewed, it's like, whoa, 16-year-old me would be bugging right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yes.
Like,
every day, what I do and who I get to talk to, 16-year-old me would be just completely blown. And grown-ass me is blown away now.
Yeah. Man, that's cool, man. And actually, one thing I did want to touch on, too, it sounded like you kind of said, but I didn't quite catch it all. But did you say you got a project with Tek that never came out?
Yes. Yeah,
Ooh.
we had a project together that we started in 2010, and we called it Gibson Glover. We have a full album, actually, but there's kind of been a little bit of a legal battle with one of the executive producers on the project. But that's not to say, to be honest, there's actually one of the songs is going to be on my album coming out at the end of the year. One of my favorite joints. So you'll start hearing some of these records just popping up here and there.
Dope. So is that what, like, Problems would have been from then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir. That's exactly where it came from. That was the first song we ever did, and we thought we got along really well. So we're like, yo, let's just do an album, and then we did an entire album together. It's crazy. There's features on there. I'm thinking about now. I'm like, man, I feel like Nature is on that album. Like, there's a couple like really cool like features on there. But I feel like Capone might be on there. But everyone will hear it eventually. That I assure you of.
Yeah, dope, man. Because that's one thing I was wondering too. I wondered what project that Problems joint was from, because I've never seen it on, like, as I've gone back to your projects and stuff. I've never seen it on anything, and I'm like, man, this is a dope joint. Like, what? Like, where is it from?
Yeah, and that's kind of when I first, I'd known J57 for a little while, and he produced that record, and that's kind of one of the first joints him and I did together. So it kind of just worked out.
That's crazy, man. And the sample you guys used on it too. I can't remember the joint, but someone cooked me up a beat years ago with that sample, and I did a joint to it. But they looped it. So I like the way you guys did and actually chopped it a bit and cut the middle out and put the the piano after the whatever the first stab is. But I really just that joint all the way around is just a dope joint, man.
Yo, thanks, man. Yeah, and you'll definitely hear more of those records, man. I mean, I don't like to keep things shelved. It was just kind of more of a legal issue, and it was really bugged out how it happened. The dude that kind of paid for the project to be done, he just got real Suge Knighty about the whole thing, and just it was one of those lessons in rap. I remember recording that album, and it's that album could have been recorded anywhere in any studio, and the guy that actually did it, that paid for it, was recording. We were recording in Puff Daddy's studio. Like,
what?
This dude was spending money that he like just. I would go in the studio and there'd just be bottles of ridiculousness and Mo and all that stuff, and that's not me. It's just not my style. And then when I go into a studio to record, man, I like it. I like it. A couple people in there, and they keep the creativity flowing.
Yeah.
There'd be 20 people in there, chain smoking Newports and shit. So it got to a point, and I was like, yo, I'm not into this. And even Tek was like, what's going on here, man? So, but the music was dope, and every time I see Tek, we were like, yo, we got to put this out. So now I have control of a lot of the masters at this point. So now I'm just going to start releasing these joints, and I actually have another producer kind of mixing stuff down now in Spain, and we'll definitely be hearing some stuff.
Oh, that's dope, man. That's real dope. And Tek's a friend of the show too. We've had Smif N Wessun on here before too. So I like to see that kind of shit, man. You know what I mean? And you're an artist who's been around for years. You've worked with some of the greatest of all time. But I feel what's the effect? It's like, kind of like the Jojo Pellegrino effect, or like the, it's like you never,
right.
you've always been there. You've been in the background. You've been with the greats. You've seen them make the moves, but it's almost like, there's like, you haven't had that proper opportunity yet, or like
No, you're right, and I've been in a holding pattern for a long time, and I think a lot of that's due to kind of, I was approached with a lot of different situations in the last 15 years, and hip hop's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that I was very good at saying no. So I would always get approached, and I first got on with those MTV battles. So that was kind of the Triton era, where everyone's making the Triton ass beats and the two-way pager beats and all that stuff. And everybody wanted me to do a certain kind of music and that kind of music, and put on a velour suit and all that stuff. And it just never was me. And I'm like, I had a meeting. I remember I had a meeting in Damon John from Fubu's office, and they were talking about signing me to their label, and they're like, yo, you can wear this, and I was like, yo, I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not my style. And Damon John is like, he's like, man, you Fatty Girl's the biggest song out right now. And 19-year-old me is like, I'm like, I know, man, I get it, but I just don't like it. And now in retrospect, anyone that kind of made that move just to sell a couple of records, like, them dudes aren't around, man. Like, so my like road to success, whatever success even is, has been a slow simmer. But I wouldn't have it any other way, because if I had gone, I would have done my thing and disappeared, and I wouldn't have the relationships with people that I have right now. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm not here to blow up, but I haven't gotten my just due yet. But so right now it's wild that 15 to 18 years in the game, that now it's at this point that I'm getting more notoriety than I ever have, and more work than I ever have, and that's a testament to where hip hop is. 10 years ago it was still so young that there was no room for that older MC that was still talented, and now you're seeing that. You're seeing those dudes like get their shine. The talent is kind of speaking for itself. So I'm happy that it kind of happened this way. It took longer, but I'm way smarter, and I saw a lot, and I'm way more equipped to deal with all that stuff at this point.
Yeah, man, and you know what too? It's like a slow build. Though it's a lot more strenuous and, painful going through it, it's like at the end of the day, you like a lot of artists, when they take the quick route, it takes a lot to break that mold. You know what I mean? Like if you make a trendy single, and even if it sells a ton, but like it's hard to break out of that mold when you're an actual artist and you take your art seriously. Like it you know what I mean? You almost get caught in a threshold where it's like you have to keep producing music you don't want to make, or it's like you try to like do, almost kind of like the Joe Budden effect. You know what I mean? It's like, where's that
Pump It Up record?
Yeah, and you get like haunted by the single kind of your whole career. You know what I mean? So it's like,
it's wild. I remember maybe 2007 or something like that. I had a manager at the time that asked me to. He was like, "Yo, VH1 wants to talk to you. Do you want to take the meeting?" And I'm everything interests me. I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's go find out. Let's see what it's about. So I walk in the office of VH1 and I see like a bunch of dudes in the office, like, rapping that to themselves. One dude has a sandwich board on that says, like, "We'll rap for food." Like, it's just some weird shit going on. And I walk into the office, and these two guys, they're like, "Yo, sign the release," you know. And I'm like, "Okay, you can film this," and that's it. And so they're like, "Yo, what do you think about 7 white rappers, like, living in a house all together and being taped?" And I'm like, "Yo, are you like, you mean like the white rapper version of, like, the real world?" And they're like, "Yeah, kind of something like that." I'm like, so I was like, "Yo, so what would be happening? Like, we'd be waking up in the morning and, like, Flavor Flav would jump out from behind a clock and be like, 'Yo, you guys like battle, you know, talk about everything in the room and start freestyling right now.'" And as I'm saying this, I can see these guys looking at each other, and I'm like, giving them ideas. They're like, "Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's actually, like, pretty good idea, actually." So, but they're like, "Yeah, it's kind of along those lines." They're like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "No, that's like belittling what I do." I'm like, "I've never even saw myself as a white artist, an Italian art, like none of that. Like, I've never even thought about that." And to make myself about that, I'm like, I'll be playing myself. And they were like, "Well, check this out. We'll let you in. You'll probably win. We're pretty sure you'll win at this point, and the prize is $100,000." And I'm like, "Yo, it's not worth it. That I'm tarnished forever."
Yeah.
And I remember, like, telling them no. And I remember a couple of, like, my homies were like, "Yo, man, I can't believe you didn't do that. Like, you could have been on VH1. I'm like, "I don't give a shit. Like, a lot of people are on VH1. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy." But that's the nature of the game, and some people fall for it, and some people decide to do it. But I just never did. It just wasn't my thing.
You know what, man? And I commend you for that too, because, you know, I'm 30 years old right now, so I came up in the era of, you know, Flavor Flav doing reality TV and shit and being like, whoa,
Yeah.
like this kind of fucks up the whole Public Enemy image to me as a fan, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, and I just never could wrap my head around how, like, you know, artists who took their craft seriously could do that kind of thing. But now you fast forward to 2020 and it's kind of the norm. But back in those days, if you were to do something like that, like, yeah, it's exactly like you said, like, it's game over. Like no one's gonna take you seriously career-wise after that. You know what I mean? It's like, look at the band. You know what I mean? Like, there were some dope dudes in the band, but, you know.
I remember one of those dudes that like, there was, like, a white dude that, like, just made the cusp of the band. He was from my hometown.
What?
And I met him, like, one other time, and he was, like, part of, like, a crew, and that crew's like, "Yo, man, you should get down with us. We got this dude." And I'm like, I don't wear a fitted cock to the side talking about ridiculousness, man. Like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Like, you got the wrong guy, man. But it's cool because now like what my content and what I'm rhyming, now that's all coming to fruition. I mean, when you see guys like, you know, you see like Griselda, who's just doing raw music, getting the notoriety they're getting, like something's happening right now where organic hip hop is really making a dope resurgence, man. No matter if it's the street stuff or just like the bars, you know, like it took a while, and when everyone thought I was crazy for kind of staying along that path, like, that underground shit. And I'm like, yo, I never even thought it was underground. I just thought it was dope. I thought it was rhyming.
Yeah.
And that's why I've had such a great relationship with some of these legends, because these guys have never changed their plan, and that's why they've been so successful.
Well, and actually, the fact that you mentioned that too, you know, I got to ask, because my favorite producer of all time, you probably already know where this is going, but DJ Premier, you know what I mean?
I might.
And, you know, like, I've seen that you and Premier have a pretty close relationship. And when I interviewed Ras Kass, he actually said that Premier was kind of like the glue that brought you guys all together for Jamo Gang. So I'm kind of curious, and, like, you know, I've seen that, you know, Premier's had you on the road with him and stuff. Like, you guys have a pretty close relationship. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how did that all come to fruition?
It's crazy, man. 'Cause when I tell you that he's one of my closest friends in the world, like, he is, like, I talk to him more than I talk to any friend of mine. I talk to him more than I talk to my family.
Wow.
And, I think that we bonded because I didn't just make it about the music with him. And he, as you probably already know, not only is he very intelligent, but he's very down to earth, and he's very wise, and he's very intuitive, and he's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life too. But he likes authenticity, and I just didn't try to do anything. I remember when I first met him, I was actually with Raz. Raz was on his show doing press for. Oh man, it was an album. It was an album he did on Mellow Music, Semi Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, Premier, I went up there with Raz and like our old manager, and Premier thought I was the producer. So he was like, "Yo, man, you could sit at this chair at the microphone," and I've never been at a loss for words. I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, yeah, cool, man." So then somebody whispered to him that you're like, "Yo, that's not him. That's Gant." So in the middle of the show, he's like, I just realized who you were. He goes, "Oh, I play one of your joints. You got a record with Torre." He goes, "It's a dope record." And I just look at him, and I didn't even know what to say. I just go, "Thank you." And he goes, he's like, "What are you thanking me for? I didn't even say anything." Like, so he just starts fucking with me a little bit, and he plays like at the end of the show, he plays my joint, and so. The show gets over, we all take pictures together, and everyone's like, "Yo, what are you guys getting ready to do?" And everyone's trying to impress him. They're like, "Yo, we're going to go to this hotel rooftop, MC, bougie hands as DJ, whatever they were trying to tell him."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yo, man, I'm going. I date this girl, and I'm going to go have some brisket, downtown, man. It's like, just a couple beers." And he just looks at me. He's like, "What do you know about brisket?" And then he just asked, he asked if he can roll, and so I literally hung out the entire night. We had the best time of our life. Like we weren't even talking about hip hop, and in fact, we were talking about the band Rush for about 3 hours. He's a big Neil Peart fan.
Oh wow!
Yeah, his music knowledge is just
through the roof.
Expensive.
Yeah.
So long story short, we just became friends, and then spoke every day since. And he's been a crazy inspiration to me. It's crazy seeing my name getting thanked on the new Gangstar album, and I was there for a lot of the making of that album. I knew about a lot of the stuff before it happened. I've traveled with him to Europe two or three times and across the U.S. It's just and a lot of times it's not even about the music. Do we have some joints together? Absolutely, we do. But it's more about the connection that we have. He's just an incredible person, and he's been nothing but amazing to me as a friend, and I've learned a lot from that guy, man. It's wild.
That's crazy, man. DJ Premier is my dream interview. You know what I mean? Ever since I started the show 5 years ago, I'm that's my goal set. You know what I mean? That's what I'm working towards. And once I get the Premier interview, then I have to set a new goal set. You know what I mean? But just exactly like what you said, man.
And it'll happen, man. Because he's like that. He's a big fan of the music, and he knows about. His show. He plays the underground stuff. He plays stuff I've never even heard of before. He keeps his ear right down to the street. And if it ain't right, and if it ain't hard, and it ain't that boom bap, he's like, it's not for me. It's not for my show. It's not my sound. It's like this. Why would I play it?
That's one thing I love about Premier too, man. It's just his authenticity throughout the years, and just how he just does what he does, and just perfects his craft, and he doesn't budge for anybody. He just does what he considers funky and real. And I could listen to DJ Premier interviews all damn day. You know what I mean? I could, there's nothing that inspires me to want to write a Premier beat. And it's same with damn near every other rapper, because some of Hove's best verses, Nas's best verses, damn near everyone, when they work with Premier, it's he brings the best out of you. You know what I mean?
He does, and he does that with me as a human, and then he does it musically. Wow. And I remember the first time I go to a studio a lot, and just and sometimes it's not even about creating. A lot of times I just go there, we chat for a while. And I remember the first time I ever recorded with him, and he looks at me through the glass, and he's engineering the session. He's like, "All right," he's like, "We're doing this." And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, "Oh my fuck, we are doing this!" I'm standing in your studio with headphones on, ready to rap over one of your beats with you engineering, and it is just the most surreal moment, because it's all I've ever wanted to do my entire life.
Yeah, man. That's the rap nerd in me, you know what I mean? That, just right there, you know what I mean? I would just quit music after that. I'd be like, damn, I'm boys with Premier. Yeah. Fuck anything. Fuck anything else.
That's what I said. I don't. To be honest with you, man, I'll always work on music. I don't care what happens after this point. My hero is my best friend. So yeah. I don't care I don't care if I don't put another song out. Like this, that's it. I'm good.
That's crazy, man. That's so cool. And like, so like, I'm curious too. Like, so how did he kind of, perpetuate the Jamo gang thing to happen?
Well, me and Raz were cool for a while. Like, I had met Raz a couple times throughout the years, and I was always a big Raz fan. And when we both went up to Premier's show, me and Raz that day, he knew that me and Raz had a chemistry too, because me and Raz have always been really good friends.
Yeah.
Which is, and we just get along really well. And it was more of, I introduced Raz to J57, and that was J57 had produced a song for Method Man on his, like, I think it was his last album, a song called The Purple Tape. I believe it was with Raekwon and Inspector Deck. And so Jay invited us to the video shoot. It was somewhere in Brooklyn, very close to where I lived, and Raz was in town visiting from LA. So I was like, yo, let's go. And Raz loves, he shows up at, he'll pop up and he knows everybody. So he gets there, does his, he says what's up to everybody. So the Jay invited us to his studio the next day. He goes, yo, let's go listen to some beats at my studio. So we went to Jay's studio and listened to like 3 songs, and that's how we got the name Jamo Gang, because we literally split a bottle of Jameson. And Jay, Jay doesn't, 57 doesn't drink anymore, but we kind of finished that off, and then so a lot of times you do that and you're like, man, is this music going to be good or not? The next day we listened to it, we're like, yo, this is actually dope. Like, this is as dope as we imagined it was that night. And we were on like a Static Selector's show that night. I was just with Raz, like tagging along with him, and Raz just announced, he goes, yeah, we just did these songs with a bottle of Jamo. Yeah, with the Jamo Gang. And then so it was more of just Preem thinking it was a good idea. He was like, yo, he's like, yeah, it's a good idea. Like, you guys got, you and Raz rap together well, like Jay's beats, so he was always just behind it. And then he had done the scratches for a song that's going to be on our album, the one that's on the vinyl called Highway. Yeah. He did the cuts for that, and then he went as far as to he produced a song on the upcoming album as well. And everything will get announced this week, so I can tell you now.
Well, and actually, sorry, not to cut you off, but this actually won't air for a couple weeks still, because we have a few interviews already lined up. So, I mean, yeah, if there's, like, if you want to talk about it, you, like, pretend like it's 2 weeks from now, and, if you got announcements coming this week, then, yeah, just pretend. I'll cut this little part out, but, yeah.
Yeah, because we're doing our big announcement tomorrow, like announcing the album and the track list and stuff, so it's going to be crazy. But, yeah, so Premier produced a song on the Jamo Gang album, and it's featuring Slug from Atmosphere.
No.
And I'm pretty sure that Slug has never rhymed on a Premier beat, so it's cool for us to be the bridge between Slug and Premier, which is crazy.
Bro, the rap nerd in me right now is fucking bugging.
Yeah.
Slug from Atmosphere.
The video's going to come out in April, and yeah, it's wild, man.
Man, yo, Slug is one of my favorite MCs, man. Like, he's amazing. And when we heard the Preem beat, we were like, yo, we gotta put someone crazy on this record. So I know Jay had met Slug at some point, but we met him backstage in Atlanta, and then asked him if he was down, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. So he was part of the video. I saw him when he rolled through New York on his tour recently. But yeah, it's a dope record, man. It's produced by Premier, and it's featuring Slug. My God, bro.
Yeah, it's incredible. Dope, really dope record, too.
Oh, my God, bro. Man, I wish I had that record right now. Man, Slug's one of my favorite, man. That is cool that you guys did that. Like, yeah, there's no way in hell, to my knowledge, that Slug has ever rapped on a Premier beat. So the fact that you guys put that together, man, that's so dope.
Yeah, and just to be part of that moment of hip-hop history, I'm just grateful for that moment,
Yeah, man, and like, fuck, man. You actually got me speechless at the moment. Like I never in my life thought I would hear Slug on a Premier beat, bro. That is so dope.
It's dope, and it's a little bit different. The beat for Premier, it's like this piano beat, but it's not like dark.
Yeah.
But it's got that classic Premier sound, and it's cool because this album the Jamo album is it's on Fat Beats Records. We actually went through a label, unlike the first release where we're independent on our own label. So we're excited. It's our first full length album.
Man, that's so cool. Is there any reason why you guys decided to go through a label with the album over the EP?
We just, we had a couple conversations with Fat Beats, and being that J57 was had a really great relationship with Fat Beats. He was running the store in New York for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say he used to work there, right?
Yeah. So like he was part of that. Eclipse ran the store, but Jay was one of the long tenured employees there. So we thought it'd be a good fit, and we liked what they did. We liked what they did with like their recent projects. I think the last project was like Marco Polo and Master Ace, and we kind of liked the way that they worked the record. And we're like, you know what, we need a little bit of a bigger machine behind us. We want to get this project out there. We have these great records. We have the record with Slug and Premier. We have a song with Sick Jackin' from Psycho Realm and Slain.
Woo.
We have a song with Sid Wilson from Slipknot.
What?
He's doing the cuts and what else do we have? Anything else on this album? We didn't go crazy on the features, man. We really wanted to make it about us, but it's just a really well put together, like cohesive album. There's only like one or two like braggadocious rapping tracks, and the rest of them are like there's a message on this album, man. Like there's some real like dope we got concepts on here. Like it's very cohesive.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to hearing this, man. And when did you say that you guys are planning on dropping it? Or you don't have a specific
April 10th.
April 10th. Dope. So that's soon.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Everything got announced on March 11th, and then now it's time for the rollout.
Oh man, dope. Hopefully you guys when you tour the album, hopefully you guys come back out here, man. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, Canada's probably our favorite. We had such a good time just touring. We had fun throughout the entire country. Like we got to see the not only the big cities, Toronto, and we got to see like the guts.
Yeah.
It was pretty dope, man.
Yeah, because you guys started on the West Coast, didn't you?
No, we started in PEI.
Oh,
in
the
Charlottetown.
East. Yeah.
And then we moved to then we were in Quebec City and Montreal, and then Toronto, and then we went to Thunder Bay. So we went to Thunder Bay. That was hilarious. That was fun, actually. And we played in Winnipeg, and then we played in Edmonton, and then we played in Calgary, and then we played in this town called Nelson, like a ski town. That was a crazy night too.
Oh yeah.
Those smaller towns are the ones that just like they go wild. And then we went to Vancouver and then Seattle.
Oh man. Yo, you guys.
We drove across. Yeah, we went from ocean to ocean.
You guys drove too.
Yeah, man. We made
shit.
it a point. We were like, yeah, we're gonna have fun, man. We're gonna make this a road trip.
Yeah, you might as well travel, right? You know what I mean? Like that's the best part about touring. Is actually
we wanted to see it, man.
Yeah. No, that's crazy though, man. Like, and do you know what else too? I gotta commend you for having such a fucking good memory, and especially a good memory about the places you traveled in Canada. Because I can tell you straight up, man, I've only been out east once. I toured there. We did like 11 shows or something, and I can't remember the names of even half the towns. You know what I mean? So the fact that you coming from the States,
you know what that is too, man. It's me being more in the present now. Like I wasn't like that before. I was always worried about the next day, but.
Yeah.
Anywhere I go now, I'm like, the smaller towns. I'm like, when am I going to be back here again? I got to look. I got to see what's going on here, man. Like it's different now.
And that's the beautiful part about touring too. Is like you really gotta, like every stop we make, we ask the locals like, what would you do around here if you're here for a day? You know what I mean? And try to go out and make a point to do that before you hit the venue or the Airbnb or the hotel or whatever. It's like. Experience each town and city and what it has to offer. Like, it's work, but you could treat it like a vacation.
We made such a connection with the Canadian fans. I think more than anything, we made such a connection. We just had a lot of dope fans there, and their enthusiasm was really dope. It was fun, and like it was very eye opening because you're always aware of the bigger markets. but you don't. You know, up until then, I never heard of Thunder Bay. I didn't know what the hell Thunder Bay was, or you know, like or those. Even like Winnipeg, I never thought I'd ever be in Winnipeg at some point. But like, we end up hitting these towns up and meeting amazing people and having a great time. And we're like, yo, I can't wait to come back here. And then doing a dope show and then having those fans be like, we can't wait for you to come back here. Like that, my favorite thing to do is tour because I like making that genuine connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and you meet people all around. And one thing I can tell you too about Canada, I don't know what it's like touring the States. You know, I've only performed down there a few times, and it's been literally New York, LA. That's it. But one thing I can tell you about Canada is, you know, everybody when they come here, they want to focus on those markets they know about, like your Vancouver and your Toronto. But honestly, like you said, like your Thunder Bays, like your smaller towns that are far and, you know, in between the route, those are your most important markets. Like some of the most successful, you know, up and coming underground dudes here in Canada, that's where they make their bread and butter. Like they don't even do shows in Toronto and stuff because the market's not there. Like Toronto's too overpopulated. It's got like its own kind of scene and stuff, but they sell out venues and all the surrounding cities.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's what we said. We're like, yo, next time we got to go to like what's that, like Sault Ste. Marie, and then like, you know, like Saskatoon. Like we're already picking other places out. We're like, yo, we're gonna hit that. And you know, I'll tell you who we learned that from actually was Snack the Ripper, because because he was on our EP and we had a connect. We have a mutual management for bookings. So we talked to him and he explained like what kind of his strategy when he was first, you know, kind of coming up.
Was that Perry?
And, what's that?
Perry?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like, you know, talking to those guys, like, you know, they were doing it right. So like, and they were like, yeah, we did Canada 3 times before, and then we did Europe a bunch of times. You know, like they understood what to do, and we're not afraid of hard work at all. You know, Raz is a workhorse, and Jay is a workhorse, and I'm definitely a workhorse. So it works out, man.
And actually, that is one thing I wanted to ask you about too. Wessun being on your guys' EP, and you guys were on his last album too, were you not?
Yeah, we're a song called Shania Twain.
Yeah, that track's dope, man. I was curious though, how did the bridge between you guys and Snack the Ripper build?
Man, you know, it originally kind of started, you know, I feel like it was through our connection with Perry, because Raz was friends with Perry, Raz was friends with Onyx, and Perry does a lot with both Onyx and Snack.
Yep. And
then, you know, we were kind of talking online a little while and talking on the phone, and then we finally met in Vancouver, and yeah, we just had a good vibe. Everyone just vibed out really hard. You know, he's a pretty genuine dude, and I think he saw the same in us, and I think that it's kind of that whole, like, you know, real normal people recognize real normal people, you know. So it just kind of worked out that way.
And you guys just kind of mesh and then end up just, you know, working with each other kind of thing.
On the album, and then in return he goes, yo, I'd love if you guys got on my album. We're like, yeah, absolutely. And then and now we're also on D-Rex got a project we did, who does a lot of his stuff. So we jumped, you know, we just kind of started, you know, building with those guys. If I like something, like, I'm going to get on it.
Yeah.
But I although I'm not a premier in any shape of the word, if I don't like something, I don't care how low or where I am on the totem pole, like, I won't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a lot of times with features, like, you know, a lot of artists will take these little amounts of money to do features. If I don't like a song, I'm not doing it. You pay me to do a record, I won't do it. No amount of money that's going to, like, you know.
Yeah. And you know what? That's one thing too, you know what I mean? It's like, and I commend you for that as well. 'Cause, you know, it's hard when you're struggling artist, especially when you got like as many years in the game as you do, to not take that route. And there's a lot of legends I see, like dudes I looked up to growing up, who I just see tarnishing their legacy because they'll take a check from anybody and do a record with them, and it's kind of unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it makes me. I mean, I understand it because I know they have to eat, but it's not for me. I don't have to do that, and so I won't.
Yeah,
I won't. You know, judge them, but it's just for me personally, I will not do it because I don't have to do it. So a lot of times when I work with an artist, I'll just be like, yo, pay for the studio, man. Like, like I'm not trying to make money off you.
Yeah.
Because I also know what it's like to want a dope artist on my record. And a lot of dope artists didn't charge me because they just liked what I was doing. So I return the favor. Like, if I like somebody, I'm not like, oh, man, send me $300. Like, no, just pay for the studio. I'll knock it out.
That's dope, man.
It's dope.
And you know what? And, like, you know, not to keep referencing back to me, but just like a lot of things you say, I really resonate with. Like, I'm the exact same way. Like, I won't do a feature with anybody, but when I do, that's exactly what I say. You know, just cover the studio time and we're good. That's it. Like, I'm not asking you for nothing. Like, if I'm feeling doing the joint, then I'm just with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's got to be quality over quantity, man. Like, that's the one thing that I firmly believe in, especially in this era when quantity is such a big thing, where people just keep throwing things out and seeing what sticks to the wall. Like, I just won't do it because I just don't want to be remembered. As you know, you're the same way. Like, you want to be remembered as that guy that has 8 million records. And there's a couple artists here that I see all the time online, and they got these albums and they have like 25 features on them, and they got like reputable names. But I'm like, man, I mean, what'd you do? What's the point?
yeah.
Like, you can't stand on your own as an MC, and then B, you paid a bunch of dudes to be on your album just so you could say you got records with them. Like,
And that's the thing. And these guys, because they're just knocking them out as a hustle, they're not promoting the song or nothing like that. So it's like the song pretty much ceases to exist unless you put the marketing dollars behind it. But a lot of times, once you've spent however many $1,000s buying features, you just kind of put the project out and you don't even market it properly.
Yeah, you're tapped.
And
it gets lost. It gets lost in the sauce, man.
Yeah, man. And you like I don't know if you follow like Reef the Lost Cause or anything, but he had a tweet a few days, like a week or two ago that I thought was hilarious. But he's like, Sean Price used to hustle versus the peep sell 20 people the same verse, and he's like, and what were you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing.
That shit's hilarious.
I was very fortunate to travel with Sean before he passed for a couple months. I did a tour, a couple dates with him and Shabam Sadiq, and man, who else was on that tour? I can't remember now, but it was called the Grown Man Rap Tour, and it was us in the van and Bernadette, who I get to see often. Bernadette Price, actually, Bernadette's in the video with the Premiere and Slug video. We have her and Sean Price's daughter in the video.
Wow,
which is really ties it together. Yeah, it's really dope. They're featured in the video. And I'm wondering if anyone's even going to notice. Like, it's pretty cool the way we did it. We didn't like overtly throw it out there.
Yeah.
But I just remember like Sean, like, you know, he's one of the funniest dudes ever, and he was exactly like that. I remember he had a bunch of calls for features that day, and then he'd be like, "Man, I'm not doing that shit."
And actually, now that you say that, because you know, I had no idea you had actually toured with Sean. But one thing I try to ask everybody that I know had a relationship with Sean, you know, from Aguilar to Rock to, you know, from Slain to Ill Bill, and anyone I've interviewed who I know had spent time around him. I like to ask because I know he was a funny dude. I only ever met him once, but you know, he's just a super funny, authentic dude. But like, what would your funniest memory of your time with Sean P be?
Oh man, he it was just, there's one night we were getting ready to leave, and we were sitting out in the van, like, waiting. He was ready to go.
Yeah.
But like, everybody was like really just playing games. You know, they're out in the parking lot talking to fans, and so the venue was shut down at 2 a.m. But all the openers were taking just way too long. You know, these guys are doing their anthologies on stage instead of like, which always kind of blew me away. Like, why openers always do that? Like, you know, not all of them, but you know, some openers were like, they'll go on stage for like an hour when it's like, man, your goal is to do a couple of dope records and get a crowd to really like you and go, who's that person? I want to know them more.
Yeah.
Which is funny because actually there's a song on the Jamo Gang album called Hit It and Quit It, and it's about opening acts that we had a guy open up for us on our US tour that, like, every time he'd say do 10 minutes, he'd do like you know, he'd do like 5 encores, and so we're like, yo man, you gotta hit it and quit it, man. Like, you gotta get the attention, you gotta get out.
Yeah.
But long story short, it took so long that Sean didn't end up going on till about maybe 1:30, and then like 30 minutes into his set, the lights all the lights turn on, like the venue turns the lights on, and Sean just goes, "Fuck it, I got paid." just drops the mic on the stage and walks off. So we go and sit in the van, and I'm sitting in the van with him, and one of the bouncers comes out, and he like knocks on the window, and Sean rolls the window. He goes, "Hey, Mr. Price, my girlfriend, she'd really like an autograph and a picture with you." And he just looks, he goes, "Nah, man, get the fuck out of here." He just rolls the window back up, and then proceeds to tell me that one of the dudes that rhymed before him he goes, "Yo, that dude raps like the Hamburglar." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "He's just on stage going, robble, 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 robble." Yo, he is literally one of the funniest people I ever spoke to.
Do you know what too? Like, I like to ask everybody that I know spent time with them, because I find a lot of times in hip hop, a lot of times people focus on the negativity or the other things attached to stuff. You know what I mean? But it's like
right.
Sean was a hilarious dude. Like, and yep. I like to look back and remember those types of things, opposed to like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever else there might be. But it's funny because you actually telling me those stories, like, those are funnier than most of the stories that the people closest to him told me. But I bet.
Yeah, and I wasn't that close to him. I just knew him. He'd say what's up. He was always cool with me. But he was also that guy. Like, he was funny, but like, when he had a lot of lines in his music that said he'd smack the shit out of you, and he would smack the shit out of you.
That's what I was gonna say.
But he was a genuine dude, man. Like, he was just funny.
That's what I love about Sean Price too, man. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't rapping about shooting people. Like, he did a little bit, but like he talked about beating your ass a lot, and that's one thing I took into my style a lot that influenced me. You know what I mean? Because I've always tried to stray from being a quote on gun bars and shit. I didn't grow up with guns, so I don't rap about that. But I will punch a dude in his face. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, man. Yeah, you're like, listen, this is what I would actually do, so I'm gonna rap about it.
Yeah, and
you had a line, I would punch you in the face. Okay, cool.
Yeah, man.
Authenticity at its finest, man.
That's what I love about Sean, man. Like, so authentic, and it's unfortunate he had to leave us so soon. But
yeah.
His
wife really rocks in his memory, man. And I got to give it up to Bernadette. I see her a lot at a lot of events in New York. And actually, here's another moment that I was extremely blessed for. When the Jamo Gang EP came out, we did a New York release party at this weekly event in the city. It's at this place called the Delancey. And we did a fun party, and I remember, some people that I was so impressed, like Pharaohe Monch showed up, Premier was there, Static came through, and I remember by the way, when I first met Pharaohe the first time, I got off stage and he walked up to me, he goes, "Yo, man, you're dope. Let me get you something to drink." And I was just blown away, because I'm like, I don't care what happens at that point. Pharaohe told me I was dope.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my favorite MCs ever. But the long story short is, Rocket Monster got on stage in the middle of our set. Raz invited him up, and then they did 90 Now, him and Bernadette did Sean's parts.
Wow.
She was doing "Peep My Words," "Yes, My Heavenly," like she was doing it, going back and forth. And now ever since then, I've seen her do it a couple times at these events, and it's kind of something that her and Rocket started doing. And she rocked so hard in his memory. She's royalty, man, and she could have taken his passing in so many different ways, but she is out there, and she is like living for him and in his memory, man. And it's very dope to see.
And carrying the torch, yeah, man, it's beautiful. Like,
and his daughter, she's out. I see her, she's out there, man. Like, it's very cool. What they've done and how they're rocking in his honor, man.
It is amazing, man. And there's literally not that's a sad part too, is that a lot of times when, legends die in our genre, nobody really carries the flame for them. You know what I mean? Like, nobody that. There's like, I can only think of Ma Dukes for Jay Dilla and Bernadette for Price. Like, those are the only two I could really think of who really, really keep the name out there, put
cool
the music
to see,
out.
Man. It's wild. I see her at a lot of events. it's cool that there is kind of a constituency in New York. Like, I'll show up at a lot of these events, and like there's like a cast of usual suspects, legends, that I'll see. You'll see like Lil Fame at events. You'll see Smif N Wessun. You'll see Royal Flush and Tragedy Gaddafi, and just these dudes that, like, they're out there, man, and they're doing it. Like, I see these guys at everything. I had a moment. You want to talk about a dope moment? 2 weeks ago, no, maybe 3 weeks ago, I went with Premier. Invited me. He goes, "Yo, let's go out." And Rhapsody was rocking not far from my apartment. Yeah. And I've never seen her live before, so I was like, "Cool, man, I'll go check it out." Dope. So I go. And we go backstage, and she was an amazing energy. Like, seems like, "Yo, this is El Gant," and she's like, "We hug around here." Like, she's really good people. But while she's on stage, me and Preem go to the bar to get a drink. All of a sudden, I look over and I see Pharaohe and I see Black Thought. I'm just standing by the bar.
I seen the pic with you and Black Thought too. I was actually going to ask how that came about.
Yeah, well, so he was standing there, and then so him and Preem and Black Thought say what's up, and all of a sudden people start taking a bunch of pictures. And it's Pharaohe, every time I see him, he's so like just great with me. Hey man, it's great to see you. Hope you're doing great. Like, looking forward to da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, it's just great for me to be among these people, and I'm grateful. But then when I meet Black Thought, I'm like, I told him I met him one other time, and he completely remembered. So then I make the mistake of, he goes, "Where's the backstage door?" And I'm like, "Oh, we went this way. It's a shortcut." So I walk with him. I'm like, I'll show you where it is. So Preem's like, "I'll go back there with you." So me, Preem, Black Thought, another woman that was with Black Thought, and another guy that was with Black Thought. I take them all through the crowd, and we get to the back door, to the backstage, and the door's locked. So I'm just standing there, and again, here's 16-year-old me. I just led Premier and Black Thought like through a whole crowd to a back door that's locked. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, guys." And Black Thought's like, "No, man, it's cool. We'll get back there." And then like 2 seconds later, luckily somebody opened the door. And then he goes, "Oh, excuse me for 1 second," and just walks out on the stage and just spits like a 5-minute flame acapella.
Thought did?
And I don't think that Rhapsody even knew he was going to get on the stage. I think he just like went up there and just did it.
No
and
way.
Then, like, the next day it was all over the internet. Like, Black Thought shows up and I'm like, "Oh my God, I was standing right there. That's dope."
Man, yo, and that's why Black Thought, goes down as one of the greatest of all time, man. Like,
yep. He's one of my. He's definitely my top. I have to say, probably my top at this point. Consistent for this long, but that's another thing, man. It's like, I may not get the fans that a lot of these guys get, but I have like these people like love what I do and love and tell me that they like what I do and support what I do. So like that means more to me than any amount of records I may ever sell or may not sell.
Yeah, man, for sure. Like, and this part I will cut out as well too. But so the show is only an hour long. We are running at about 52 minutes now. I know there's like a couple parts I had to cut out and stuff, but I do want to leave some room to play some of your music. So we should wrap it up. But like, honestly, man, like, this has been one of my favorite conversations, and I've interviewed like a lot of legendary dudes, man, and this has been one of my favorite conversations.
Thank you, bro. That's really cool.
And like, I got 2 pages of notes here, and we've literally, I think, talked about 3 of all these topics. So I mean, I'd be more than happy to get you on the show again if you're into it. Like, even like, in a few weeks once the Jamo project drops, come back on, promote it, and like, because you got so much history yourself I want to talk about, like, of your actual music. Like, I feel like we didn't even get to talk about your music a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like, we talked to Jamo and stuff.
We can do that, or I have like the first like solo project I'm dropping in June that since like 2015. So either or, man. We could do another thing for. Sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, I would, 100%. I would love to have you on the show again. Like, we literally, didn't touch on. Like, I have 3 things crossed out here, but like, just all the different things, and the way you carry conversation, like, you hands down have been one of my favorite people I've ever interviewed, man, for real.
That's so. I appreciate that shit beyond belief, man. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
it's fun when you're talking to some, because right now we're just talking like two homies right now about music. So,
yeah,
like it's
exactly. Yeah, it's like
when you know your shit, like you do. You're an artist. Like, you understand it. So like that's why it's so natural. It's, you're not like, so tell us about yourself. Like we're having a genuine fucking conversation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, how I carry my interviews too. Like, sometimes people would be like, like what's the topic of discussion for the interview, or can you send your questions? I'm like, I don't really write questions. I'm like, I write bullet points and I have a conversation. So it's like,
I wouldn't want to know your question. I'd be like, yo, any like, let's talk.
Yeah,
like,
it makes the
I
conversation
figure
dry.
Figure it out as I go along.
Yeah, man. But honestly, like, we can splice it back in here. But honestly, man, I appreciate your time so much. Like, definitely want to get you back on the show if you're open to it. Like, this door's open anytime. One of my favorite conversations I've had with anybody, and that like, this goes up there with my DMC interview. This goes up there with, like,
wow.
Yeah, man. Like, yeah, man, for real. Like, this is just.
Yeah, we'll keep it going. Yeah, we'll do another one, man, in a couple months if you're down, and we'll talk about the new stuff, and then we can kind of dig into the career shit.
Yeah, man, because we won't get into it right now, but I just want to tell you, like, one thing I did want to really talk about is you battling Pumpkinhead on MTV back in the day. Like, that's crazy. Wow. You know what I mean? But we'll
that'll be fun.
Yeah, man, we'll save all that for the next conversation. I appreciate your time, but before we do let you go, please let the people know, how they can find you online, all that good stuff, and let them know when the new Jamo Gang album is dropping again too.
Yeah, man, you can find me at @LGant, everything, @ELGANT, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. And even at Jamo Gang, JamoGang.com. And the new album, Jamo Gang, Walking with Lions, is the title of the album. That will be on Fat Beats. It's out April 10th. Get that. With the vinyl. The download. There's a couple CDs floating out there, so get that.
And you got Premier and Slug on a joint on there. Just in case whoever's listening now tuned in part way, there is a Premier and Slug feature on that project.
If you don't even know who we are, you could get the album and join with Premier and Slug on it.
Yo,
that's it.
I appreciate your time, my dude.
Yeah, great talking to you, man. And I'll talk to you soon. If you need anything, man, don't hesitate to hit me up.
Definitely, man. Definitely. By all means, too, I'll send you, because we were talking through my personal email, I'll send you the radio email, so as soon as you start rolling out the singles for Jamo and everything, you can send the songs so we can play them and all that. And yeah, definitely,
thank you. Yes.
Definitely want to get you back on the show. We'll keep in touch, but like, you can let me know kind of what works best for you. If you want to do it after Jamo drops, we can do that. Or if you prefer to wait a week or 2 or 3, until you're closer to dropping your solo, we could wait till then too. I'm open to whatever. I got a baby dropping at the beginning of June, so I'm literally I'm grinding as hard as I can right now, doing as many interviews as possible. So, yeah.
Brad. We'll do it. We'll just do it next month and just have it ready.
All right, cool, my man. Sounds good.
All right, man. Great talking to you.
You too, brother. Have a blessed night, man.
All right, bro. You too.
Cheers, man.